Hello guys and welcome back to the channel. So in this video we're going to talk about a very interesting topic, and no, it's not this iron in my background and not these pillows. What the fuck, how did this get here? I just have a table here and apparently my wife put some random stuff there just before I start filming. Anyways, so we're going to talk about if Palantir is the next 100-bagger stock, or if it's real that it's going to be a 10-bagger stock. And I think this is a very important topic to talk about, because let's not be idiots and let's have an honest talk if this is even real. And I think a lot of people don't think correctly about this subject. So, and why can I speak about this subject? I mean, one, you know, I've been covering Palantir for a very long time. And number two is I very recently read Chris Meyers' 100 Baggers book, which I really recommend for long-term investors, because in this book he basically goes through a lot of case studies about stocks that became 100 baggers, and you know what was the commonalities and how investors can find these stocks. So let's see if Palantir is one of these stocks. So what does he say? What were the things that he most commonly found in 100 bagger stocks? So one thing that he said is that, you know, you would think that all the 100 bagger stock came from one industry, and that is tech. And he said it's very surprising that actually there was 100 baggers in all kinds of areas. I mean, Walmart was a 100 bagger in retail. Monster energy drink was a 100 bagger in energy drinks. I mean, you know, you have Tesla, which is a car company or not a car company. And I could give you a lot of examples, but it's not that a company that is a tech company is going to be 100 guaranteed 100 bagger, and if a company is not not a tech company, then they have no chance of being a 100 bagger. So one of the things that was a telltale sign is that the companies had very high gross margins. Those companies have a very good chance of becoming a 100 bagger. So that is a check for Palantir, because Palantir has around 80% gross margins. So we are good on this point. Then the next point was that the companies need to have a very big ability to grow year after year after year. So obviously, if your whole market is New York City and you IPO and you know you have 80% of New York City, then there's no way for you to grow and you cannot become a 100 bagger. Or if you look at how Apple is today, that you have 3 billion people actively using iPhones. Can they grow? Yes, but you know, if they grow to 2.6 billion, that's only a doubling of the company. So they don't have a chance of becoming a 10 bagger anytime soon, unless there is some crazy inflation. So Palantir has a huge opportunity to grow. So I would say that this point is also a check. Then point number 3, these companies need to have a very big, wide moat, and it has to be very hard to replicate what they are doing. So Palantir has the most talented, most hardworking, hardest to get, brightest minds in the data science, software engineering people. They have a 5 to 10 year lead with their program with their software on other people. And I would say that this is something that is hard to duplicate. So I even give them a check on moat. And the next point is that usually these companies are led by iconic entrepreneurs. For example, Steve Jobs, Apple, Charles Schwab. And here we can argue, but I think that Karp is a quite iconic entrepreneur. So I would even give them a check at this point. So this is not a guarantee. It just means that Palantir has the possibility to at one time become a 100 bagger. So now here's the thing that most people get completely wrong about this subject. So the average company that ends up becoming a 100 bagger, it takes about 25 years to become a 100 bagger. So that means that you, very impatient retail investor, need to be able to sit on your butt and not do anything with the stock for 25 years. And most of the people who are asking if Palantir is the next 10 bagger, they want to know if Palantir is the next 10 bagger 10 months from now or in the next 3 years. And that ain't going to happen, because mathematically it's impossible. If you want a 100 bagger, all you need is a company that can grow its earnings around 20% per year for 20 to 25 years, maybe a little bit of PE expansion, and you've got your 100 bagger. So again, where are most people going to fail on if Palantir is the next 100 bagger? They're going to fail on selling Palantir 2 years from now because it went from 15 to 18 and they think it's overvalued and it's time to exit. Or Palantir goes to 20 and it comes back down to 70 and they're like, oh my God, I have 60% gains. I have to lock in my gains. So let's sell and we will trade something else and we will come back to the stock when the times are better. And this is why most investors never get 100 bagger. And this is also clear in Chris Meyers' book. Now, I want to show you a video clip from Palantir Weekly where a guy that I like super much. What the F is going on? Okay, how do I make this disappear? Sorry guys, just bear with me. Maybe here. Yeah, here we go. So I want to show you Arnie. I really like this guy. And they happen to talk about this subject also in Palantir Weekly. And he gave the best freaking answer about how he looks at Palantir. And I think if you're a long-term investor, this is the exact right mindset. And it answers if Palantir is going to be a 100 bagger or not.
I personally never had a 10x, and I hope Palantir will become my first one. Like I had some doubles, Palantir became a 4x for a day back then. I seek that, but that's not the primary goal. I think here I'm more different from many retail. Since I have the finance study, the financial working experience, I seek more. Okay, I buy something that can confidently be way better than the S&P 500. And the simple reasoning behind that of why I'm confident in having Palantir is because if we take the current multiple on the revenues is around 12, 13, that's a reasonable multiple. It's not low per se, like when you talk about revenue multiples, it means that typically is not a cheap company. But even if Palantir keeps staying at this level, that is not low but okay, and Palantir actually keeps growing that 20% growth for many years, and 20% even with 5% dilution, so 15% CAGR on the revenue per share growth. That would be enough to be way, way ahead of the S&P 500. So the core question then becomes, okay, there are enough conditions to actually provide Palantir enough room, enough speed to keep growing 20% more or less, or even more for the next decade, or even 2 decades or more? Actually, I would say yes, and we have proofs from Microsoft, but here more important, I would say ServiceNow, Salesforce. These companies are actually huge and they keep growing very, very well. So if they achieve that, and I believe Palantir is a superior company to both of them, the potential is there. So the framework with which I'm having it is right now 12x revenues. And Palantir is growing quite badly, but if they keep just growing 15% and the multiple stays flat, that's already enough to do 2x the average of the S&P 500. So I'm confident, that's more what I think, like what I focus on, and I would say the 10x would be a side effect that I desire, but is not my goal. Obviously, 100x would be like a major dream, and I would think they would put us as one step closer to Forbes.
Okay.
Cool. So this was one of the best answers ever about how to think about Palantir. So as long as you're in a company that you're holding for the long term and is able to grow much faster than the S&P 500, and it doesn't need to be an unbelievable number. You heard 15% is already a lot higher than the S&P 500, which is, I believe, something like 9% per year. after, 10, 15 years, as a byproduct of this investing, you are going to have a 10 bagger. And maybe after, 20 to 30 years, you're going to have a 100 bagger. But number one, you have to be able to think on that time horizon and hold your stock. And number two, you need to be able to hold your stock for that long. And number three, you need to be able to hold your stock for that long. If you read this book, most people don't have 10 baggers and 100 baggers because the stock goes up 30% and then they cut their portfolio to lock in their gains and prevent themselves from really making life-changing gains. So don't make that mistake. I hope you like this video. Please make sure you're subscribed, and I'll see you in the next one. Ciao, ciao.